Hello friends, I hope you are doing well. You are welcome to my YouTube channel Pharmacy with Hemant. Today I am present here with new video related with pharmacokinetics, that is factor affecting drug distribution. As I explained in my previous video that drug present in systemic circulation only does not show any pharmacological action in body. So drug should reach in several tissues to show its pharmacological activity, which is known as drug distribution. There are several factors which affects the distribution of drug in our body, which we are going to explain individually in today's video. The first factor is tissue permeability of drug, which is related with physicochemical property of drug. There are mainly three physicochemical properties of drug which affect the distribution of drug. First one is molecular weight. The drug having molecular weight less than 500 to 600 Dalton can easily pass capillary membrane to enter in extracellular fluid, and from extracellular fluid to cross the cell membrane through aqueous filled channel. The particle size must be less than 50 Dalton, that is very small with more hydrophilic properties. So we can conclude that smaller the molecular weight, easier to cross cell membrane, so higher will be the distribution of drug. You can see in picture that 500 to 600 Dalton size of drug can easily pass capillary membrane, and to enter in cell from extracellular fluid it should be smaller in size, about 50 Dalton. Second one is degree of ionization. As you already know that all drugs are either weak acid or weak base. Our blood pH is around 7.4, which is slightly basic, so maximum of the drug get ionized in blood. So drug can only penetrate biological membrane if they are in
unionized
form. You can see picture is there. Acidic drug will not ionized in acidic environment, whereas basic drug will also not ionized in the basic environment. So lesser the ionization, higher will be the drug distribution. Another physiochemical property of drug which affect drug distribution is lipophilic hydrophilic permeability. That is, polar and hydrophilic drug are less likely to cross the cell membrane, whereas non-polar and hydrophobic drug are more likely to cross the cell membrane. As we already know that our cell membrane is made up of phospholipid bilayer. You can see in picture that lipophilic drug can easily pass through cell membrane, whereas hydrophilic drug should pass through the channel or carrier protein is required. Higher the lipophilicity, greater the drug distribution. Another factor which affect the distribution of drug is physiological barriers to diffuse the drug. During drug distribution, drug should cross several biological membranes such as capillary endothelial barrier, simple cell membrane, blood-brain barrier, and placenta barrier. Blood-brain barrier are the outer covering of the brain, which only allows the specific molecules having smaller molecular weight and higher lipophilicity property. And same in placental barrier, it is the tube through which fetus get nutrition from the mother. So it is highly specific to the substance having smaller molecular weight, whereas having more lipophilicity. Another factor which affect distribution is organ or tissue size and perfusion rate. Perfusion rate is defined as the volume of blood that flows per unit time per unit volume of the tissue. So larger the size of organ, higher will be the perfusion. So we can assume that higher the blood flow, greater the distribution of drug. Another important factor which affect drug distribution is binding of drug to tissue components. First is binding of drug to blood components such as protein present in blood and the blood cell. That is, all type of drug bind to the human serum albumin, and basic drugs bind to the alpha-1 acid glycoproteins. Lipoproteins only bind to basic and lipophilic drugs, whereas alpha-1 globulin binds to steroids like corticosteroids and vitamin B12. Alpha-2 globulin bind to vitamins A, D, E, K, which are only fat-soluble vitamins, and cupric ions. Same as plasma protein, RBC also binds several drugs such as imipramine, chlorpromazine on their cell wall, whereas drugs like phenytoin and phenobarbital binds to the protein present in RBC, that is hemoglobin. All those drugs which binds with protein as well as blood, they form a weak bond between the drug and plasma proteins, which get dissociated when there is fall in drug concentration in blood plasma. Drug also bind to several extravascular tissue proteins. Tissue drug binding result in localization of drug at a specific site in body and serve as a reservoir. As binding increases, it also increases biological half-life. Biological half-life means the drug will stay in our body for a longer time. It will take longer time to excrete from our body. And there is a problem: if drug bind irreversibly with the proteins, it leads to drug toxicity in our body. Miscellaneous factors are there which affect our drug distribution, such as age, pregnancy, obesity, and disease state. Let's see age. The total body water is greater in infant compared with adult and elderly. There is both intracellular fluid as well as extracellular fluid. In context of fat content, there is higher fat content in infant and elderly compared to adults. Organ composition, that is blood-brain barrier, is poorly developed in infant, so drug can easily pass in brain of infants compared to elderly or adults. There is low albumin in both infants and elderly, so there will be less drug binding with the albumins. Miscellaneous factor, that is pregnancy. During pregnancy, there is a growth of uterus, placenta, and a fetus, which increases the volume available for distribution of drug. Other is obesity. As you already know that obesity means there is a large amount of adipose tissue, that is fatty acid. So drug can bind to fat tissue for a longer time, so distribution of lipophilic drug is higher. Next is disease state. Mechanism involved in alteration of drug distribution in disease states, such as altered albumin and other drug binding protein concentration, alteration or reduced perfusion to organ or tissues, altered tissue pH, there is acidosis or alkalosis of our body, alteration of permeability of physiological barrier. You can see one example is there related with permeation of physiological barrier, that is in patient having meningitis or encephalitis, blood-brain barrier becomes more permeable towards the polar antibiotics such as ampicillin, penicillin G, and they can easily enter in our brain, so they can have more severe side effect than the normal patient. You can see normal meninges and infected meninges in picture given on your right hand side. There is infected meninges will have more porous, they will be permeable to polar drugs. Thank you for watching, friend. If you think this video was important and useful for you, please don't forget to like and share with your friend. And if you are new for my YouTube channel, please don't forget to subscribe and press bell icon so that you can get notification on times for my new upcoming video. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep watching, be updated. Thank you.